Welcome to Ready Layer One. It's a crypto podcast that focuses on the near ecosystem. And this week is our weekly news update called Who Sharded. So, what do we do on Who Sharded? We talk about everything news updates going on in the near protocol ecosystem, and then also the Aurora EVM ecosystem. It is powered by Near Week. All right, Joe, what happened this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the biggest news from last week was that Stater hack. So Stater, again, the liquid staking provider, they had a flaw in their smart contract. All this money got lost. So we've been over it. They actually, though, announced their, I guess we'll call it a recovery plan, how they're going to repay people who actually lost money. They detailed it out. So what they're essentially doing is it's a reimbursement form. You can fill it out. So if you were affected by it, go to the Stater Twitter account. There's a link there. You can fill it out and get your reimbursement. They'll obviously, because then everything's on chain, they'll be able to validate if you are actually someone who should be repaid. So don't try to scam. But yeah, I mean that's at least I'm happy to see they have a plan in place to actually try to address this. Again, we could talk about all the other issues that how we got here, but at least now they are trying to resolve this.
Yeah, Joe, and what that brings up another point, which is like in these early stages, people are getting paid back from some of these like hacks and scams, but that's not a sustainable business model, and eventually people are gonna not like it's not to be expected, right? It's a nice thing to happen, but it should definitely never be expected.
It's one of those things where somebody needs to be responsible, especially like where, this is a situation where I personally feel like that Stater like made a mistake here. Like this kind of flaw. Again, maybe it's not like, and again, when we say like Stater, like maybe it was the audit, maybe someone did miss something, but like it's still, it falls under that, right? Like it wasn't just a straight up attack on their protocol. And so, yeah, it's nice to see that they're doing this. Again, this does set a precedent, though, so it's going to be interesting to see if this were to happen in the future, what happens then.
Yeah, and crypto sometimes are like it can get a little bit like fun, and you're like, oh wow, it's like Web 2. It is not, but it's still a lot of risk, right? And which follows up with another piece of news where the Rainbow Bridge, a true hack was attempted on that this week too, but Rainbow Bridge for the second time stopped it.
Yeah, I mean, this is now the second one, very similar attack to the one that happened a couple months back. Same kind of, trying to push bad data through. Again, the way the bridge is built and the way that Aurora has focused on security and everything else, it was stopped within 31 seconds. There was no real human intervention needed. Aurora even joked that like they didn't have to wake Alex up when it happened, and that is a great example though of just like when you build security first, those type of things are it lets you sleep easy, right? Like it lets you feel confident in what you're doing. So it's nice to see that. I wish there was a little bit more promotion. I should say promotion, like it's a little bit more media attention.
Yes,
from outside of the near community about it. But I mean, again, everyone likes to post the negative, but this was a real positive.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like this is just like a bigger narrative I hope is coming is that just like tech matters, right? Like these hacks are coming, and if you're not on a blockchain that is like focused on that, like, oh man, it's all fun to degen until a hack comes, and no matter what happened, all your money's gone, right? Like, and then you find out like if there wasn't a lot of thought and security beforehand, then that's when I think people are going to start getting upset. So I think these next few years, there's going to be security is going to be a big one, and decentralization. I think those two, and they're just not super fun to talk about. They're not super marketable, like fun. There's not like a picture around them, a JPEG.
No, but I mean, it's the old thing, right? Like nobody cares until it affects you,
Yep.
and so no one cares about like we'll say no one cares about decentralization until you get censored, right? Or until your tokens get locked, right? Like nobody cares about security until you get hacked, and it's like so it's how do you start to get out in front of that is going to be important. but Near and the bigger protocols building on Near, most of them really seem to be focused on that, and so that's good to see.
Absolutely, man. And with the 30 plus wallets coming out of the pipeline, I think my main thing is just security. Like, I would take security over everything else. Like, it could be the worst UX UI if the security was 100%. Like,
it has to be, right?
yeah.
I mean, your wallet's your gateway to the whole thing. So if like that has to be rock solid. Like your wallet is you in Web3. So yeah, it's got to be top notch. We harp on NFT projects a lot, but one that we should highlight is Seat Lab put out a really interesting blog post about how they're working with Lost Village, which is live entertainment events, about leveraging NFTs as the ticket process to expand the goers experience, and so allowing them to have different access levels and things like that. It's, Seat Lab is really trying to transform ticketing through NFTs, which is again, it's a really interesting project. I would encourage people to I don't want to read the story to people, but I would encourage them to check out, that's Seat Lab blog post of like what they're trying to do with it, because that starts to give you a picture of the potential of when NFTs are not just about PFP projects. So Metapool is in the news for two different things this past week. One, the Cheddar meta yield campaign that hit their goal, and so that was awesome, right?
Well, before you go on to the next part of that, let's break that down a little bit. First off,
Yeah.
Cheddar Farm. It's I say everyone should go check it out, because it's sort of a way to dip your toe into liquidity pools without impermanent loss, right? Because it's not like it's not a DEX. It's more of like an educational way to learn about this.
Yep.
Like you can go and you can see how a liquidity pool works. You can do Cheddar and Nico right now as a pool, and you can put them both in there and you can see how that kind of works. And I think that's a really good stepping stone, because when you go into like a liquidity pool with impermanent loss and you don't know what you're doing, things can change real fast, and you think you made some money, or not financial advice, but you think you did well, and really you got rocked, and you're like, wait, how did I lose money? And it's like, oh, that concept is a little bit abstract and it can happen quick.
Yep.
And also I think talking about like people putting together a good site, I think Cheddar Farm is another one that I'm like, oh, okay, it's like put together. They have an NFT, but it's like a never-ending mint, or it's like a endless mint, and you use the NFT with your liquidity pool for a power boost.
Right.
I bring all this up not because, I'm just saying, like, I'm liking to see the like NFT being used for things. I just like what they're doing, and so check them out. I've posted about them some, so and it's really good to see what they did on Meta Yield. Which, Joe, do you want to try to explain Meta Yield, like, briefly? Do we? Oh no,
not really. I would say here's this, in regards to Meta Yield, we did interview Metapool. It's going to come out soon in the next couple of weeks. Check that out. That will explain Meta Yield. So anticipate that.
Exactly. And we're probably going to go back and interview him again, because it's like it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I was like, oh, dude, that's super smart. So we will bring that to you all. But yeah, and Joe, what was the second thing Metapool was in the news for?
So it's the 1-year anniversary of Metapool being on mainnet. Wow. And what's significant about them is, so there are multiple liquidity staking providers, but the big thing with them is that they were the first. They are the largest right now. They are really focused on community. They do a lot in the Near community, especially around the Latin community within Near. And so I think they are a project to watch. They are focused on security and everything, and so it's a nice milestone for them this past week.
Cool. Yeah, and Claudio's super smart. It's like, whoa, that's someone who knows the space for sure.
They have a smart team. Yep.
Cool. And Joe, I want to we're talking about other NFTs that are sort of doing cool plays and the games coming around. Like, I think, we talk about games, and I think there's a lot of people, we're not the first people who think GameFi is going to be something major.
Yeah.
And just a side note, I think like the thing about crypto right now is like, why should anyone come to this space? Right? Like, so I think like the last few years, crypto has been kind of the game, right? It's
Yeah.
a lot about investing, getting in early. There's ICOs, there's like NFTs, but like
Yeah.
most of the NFT narrative for the last year has kind of been PFP, Ponzi, get in, pump, get out before it drops. Not all of them, but a lot.
Yep.
And so that's been fun, but that in itself has been a game.
Yeah.
Like the ecosystem. Once games come to the near protocol, I have a feeling that's like something that could bring users in, that it's a little less risk. They don't have to like figure out stuff. They can just come and play a game.
Sure.
And so seeing these sort of things, like there's one called Playable that were just kind of launched, kind of came out of nowhere, and they were originally building on Terra Luna.
Yep.
So then they pivoted to Near for this space, which good for them, good for Near that's reaching out. I remember that whole marketing push by them. And it's fantasy football, like you mint 8 cards, or you mint like a pack of cards, Joe, and then as you open the card virtually, you get 8 cards. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's super interesting to me because first off, so when you mint the pack of cards, it's going towards their fantasy sports games, and fantasy sports I think it's something like in the US alone, I think almost like $8 or $9 billion business. Wow. Like, I mean, it's huge business. Never mind the gambling aspect, but like just fantasy sports alone, right? Sports gambling is a whole nother thing too, but then like fantasy sports is really, really big. And so to combine it with NFTs in the blockchain, I think there is huge potential here. It could go wrong. Like I don't know all the ins and outs of like what they're doing, but I love the ambition of it, and I'm really interested to see of how they can maybe push it and what they can actually do. Because if you are involved in fantasy sports, there are things like called keeper leagues where you get to hold on to players from year to year. You're not redrafting every single year. And this seems to be a little bit about that, where like you are combining the collectible aspect of having a trading card as well as part of your fantasy game as well. So it's a really interesting play. It's good for Near to have these type of projects going on there. I encourage people to kind of check it out. I think you can play it for free without even minting a pack. So it's definitely check it out.
Something else that's coming up is we could pivot to Aurora, the EVM real fast, is it looks like Aurora is going to now be listed on Coinbase coming up here soon. And I mean, I think in the crypto space, the listing on exchanges used to be the biggest thing. And I still think Coinbase is somewhat some heat, but I think that's going to hopefully go away soon. But it's exciting that they're going to get listed on Coinbase for people in the US and stuff like that. So
yeah, look, it's all of these things are important. Just like when the Near thing was announced, and now Aurora, right? Like it just as soon the more access people have to the token, it just increases the opportunity for people to become part of the network. So I think these are always a net positive. So Aurora and Near will be both on Coinbase soon.
Yeah, and the thing about doing this show weekly is we really start to see like there's all these news articles, and we hope you guys all check it out. Like we get a lot of our news from Near Week, right? And they do a daily, like they do a daily news, like a news update, and they also do a weekly. Yeah. And you really, in bear markets and when liquidity is low, it can get kind of frustrating and negative. And then you go and you see all these things are still building, like all these partnerships are happening. Like now is when all the projects are connecting, and like there isn't the noise of a bull market. So I think there's a lot going on, and seeing that's just what you want to see in any blockchain. I think it's just that there's stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I think like we're not jumping into some of the different news stories because they are like in between stuff, right? Like there's not actual launches necessarily happening just yet, but like people are doing stuff, and so it's good to keep up with that. One of the things following up from what we've been talking about the past few weeks is like all the wallet stuff, which has been bananas. But we highlighted that Near Foundation is focusing on the wallet selector. And it's nice to see that it's being leveraged already by some bigger projects. Paris has it. Apollo 42 had put it in there. There's, I believe, Few and Far. So the marketplace is already all using it. Rainbow Bridge has already integrated it. So Rainbow Bridge is using the wallet selector. So, and there's plenty more, but it's really nice to see that, on both sides, both, on the Aurora side and the Near side, that people are leveraging that wallet selector, because a lot there's going to be a lot of choices pretty soon.
A lot of wallets coming around the corner.
Yeah.
And Joe, and also something that happened this week that I wanted to bring up is that there's been a lot of marketing discussion happening on the space.
Yep.
And it's been going around the ethos. And then on Saturday, we fired off a tweet that said like where our marketers at.
Yep.
We got some traction. It must have been in the ethos. People responded. By Sunday, we put up a Twitter space, and we're going to do it weekly. It's called Marketing LFG on Near, and it's just getting the space together and talking about marketing. Because right now, Near's got the tech. They're working on the tech. They're focusing on devs. Now, I think marketing is going to start to become more essential in the next year to 2 to 3 years, because that's the next step. It's like product, marketing, sales, right? And so the more stuff that's getting made needs to get more awareness out there. And then the sales / we could also, like in Web3, sales can also be onboarding, right? Like it's not really, it's not like a sales, like sometimes it is, sometimes it's a large project, but other times it's just a user coming in. And I'll tell you, Joe, been very impressed with the reaction and the people coming together. What do you think about this whole thing? It's kind of been like a pretty amazing guerrilla marketing group effort.
It is really heartening to see that after like a little, kick in the ass type of thing, that people really came together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like 24 hours of like everyone super jazzed, and it's been sustaining through the week. I feel like it's growing. It's and that's what's going to drive adoption long term, is that you need the community to be fully invested. You need them to really drive it. The foundation is only going to give you so many tools. It's their job to provide the best possible layer 1 and the best possible tools for you to build whatever you could imagine on top of it. It's then up to the community and the builders and the projects and everybody else to promote the hell out of their stuff. And so I'm excited to see that, and I hope the people keep attending these groups on Sunday.
Absolutely. And Joe, you made a really good analogy on one of these times where you were saying basically like, you don't ask Amazon Web Services for money to promote you. You just want Amazon, what you use the suite, you use what Amazon Web Services has to build your project, right? And in Web3, there's a lot of marketers. I'm starting to talk to a lot of marketers. The concept of Web 2 and Web 3 marketing, a lot of stuff translates, obviously, but a lot doesn't. And it's like, how do you drive engagement? Who drives engagement? How do you walk people through a buyer's journey? Like, these are all things that might not be the Near Foundation's responsibility, right? It is a local, it's like the project to project. And, it's just a fascinating conversation, because people are really, there's some hard conversations happening, people sharing what they've tried. Also, we did a thing, one guy in one of the groups that shouted out Near is now instead of Near is the future.
Yeah.
And I like Near is the future personally. It's fine. It's been a long time. And now Near is now. Everyone started hashtagging that, and it got like on like a small trending page. You know what I mean? It was like pretty cool. Like, and that was just like one little activity.
Yeah.
That didn't take time. And then, projects are starting to support each other. Connections are being made. There's a lot coming out. I think like even you see who the marketers are in the community sharing, oh, let's get video YouTube's made. Well, here's what they cost. No one knew that. So it's like sharing insights for marketing for the community. That's like Web3 all the way. That's like this weird, like, I don't know, man. It's coming together, and it's just kind of like, what does this decentralized world of marketing look like?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's kind of cool.
It's also like, it's also so early that, projects really shouldn't feel like they're competing with each other. Like, like what you're competing against is the old solution for whatever you're solving for, right? So like you're trying to, if you built a better social network, but on Web3 that's decentralized and private, includes ownership, well, then your competition isn't the other people who are doing that social thing. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's all those things. And so how do you then bring users from there? And so like, that's why it's so great to see the community really coming together and trying to support that, because that is where you're going to get to larger growth. And then once you get the people in the door, then build a better product, build something really cool, get people excited. But you gotta work together to get everybody in the door, and then you can go from there.
Exactly. And there needs to be a reason for users to come to Near Protocol or Aurora. And the ones now, there's DeFi, but that's a whole different thing. That's not your average user. That's a whole different space. And then you also have sort of NFTs, but NFTs are evolving in such a fast pace where like who knows where they're going to be in 3 or 5 years, right? Like it started out as sort of a gambling Ponzi scheme thing, but people get smart. Systems get figured out by the collective, then the system must adapt. And I think we're in an adaptation phase on NFTs right now, and you can see it. Like, you can see like a pump and dump just isn't as easy now for these. And I'm anti all that crap, but it happens, and it's just the system's getting wiser to it. And then
definitely.
Yeah. And then an NFT project might pivot into something that's like super sticky. And then by sticky, I mean like users come and they like want to keep using it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you gotta go through all those steps, right? And Web3 crypto, whatever you want to refer to that, is not immune to the same concerns of building any other business, right? Like it's still the tenets of building a business about getting users, getting them to pay, getting them to stay around, all of those things. That's all the same stuff. You just have a different tool set underneath. That's all.
Exactly, man. So every week we're going to try to do that, and y'all keep pushing to get as many people, because right now a lot of the NFT projects jumped in. Now it's like getting the dApps, and we did a lot. We learned about the marketing DAO, and then we interviewed someone from the marketing DAO. We're going to bring that info to the community.
Yep.
And I guess it's just about education and collectively working on something, and it's cool. So Joe, I thought that was kind of, it might not have made the biggest news, but I thought that was a bit of news that I wanted.
It's definitely news. Absolutely, it's important.
It is cool, man. Everyone, make sure you check out Near Week. There's going to be more stuff, and we'll keep seeing how this evolves. Joe, great talking to you. Great catching up.
Yeah, sounds great. See you next week.
Ready Layer 1 is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose.
You should not make any decision, financial, investment, trading, or otherwise based on any of the information presented in this podcast without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or financial advisory.